Educating constitutional advocates, one patriot at a time. We've already got the table and chairs set up. Everything's great.
Hey, hi. Oh my
Little
God.
housekeeping items. First, if you have a cell phone, if you put it on silent, off, stun, whatever, so we don't interrupt. We've got a jam-packed night.
Okay, this is United Patriot of Arizona.
Over here.
AZ, I should say. United Patriot AZ. He just started rolling before I was ready.
We have some dessert if you haven't been here.
And for the light ones, we need your support.
We've got some donuts in the back of the room. We also have some tables set up by candidates. You're going to want to stop by. If you're qualified to sign your petitions, please do. Let's. I always say that signing a petition, even if it's somebody I'm opposed to, it puts it on the ballot. It puts it up for the vote of the people. Isn't that what we want? Also, on the side over here, we have patriotic T-shirts, educational books, and Jeff Craig's daughter, Catalina, is selling.
Thank you for the hearts, guys. Thank you, Tracy.
And some other things. So
Mikhail.
stop by the tables and
Michael.
see what you might be able to take home with us. And who can I lean on? Mike. Would you come up and offer a prayer to kick the night off? No?
All together. Dear Lord, please bless these people and make the events profitable and express in our hearts, and let the community in time convert to your will, and we all know what that is. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. So we're going to have a little change of pace. Normally we say the Pledge of Allegiance, but is Hayden Heidmerich? Is Hayden? Ah, there she is. She's going to lead us in singing the National Anthem. Hayden, come on up. Thank you, Amy. That was awesome. And thanks for everybody that participated in that. I know some of us don't care to sing out loud, but we have somebody who can cover up those voices. So before we go any further, we would like to acknowledge all of our military, active, retired, firefighters, first responders. Please stand up so we can show our appreciation. Thanks to each and every one of you for your service. We really appreciate that. Now, as we go through the evening, you're going to see up here at the front of the room there is a sign-up list for the email distribution, and there are some cards. There are some cards. Got a front and that you can pick up a handful, maybe just a pinch, and you can share them with your friends. It has a little QR code for them to go. They can scan it on their phone. They can go and register for the distribution list and get some additional information. So the distribution list, or the sign up for the distribution list is on the front table, as well as the cards. Marcella, she's our favorite. Where's Marcella? Oh, there she is. She's in the back. She's the one that brings the donuts. So we always got to say a big thank you to Marcella. And later she will be passing around the donation buckets. You'll see those. This entire operation runs strictly on donations. So please feel free, dig in your pockets, and let's make that happen. Jeff has so clearly, last week we had a little trouble, missing Dot. But this is forgive me, I don't have the date. March 5th, thank you. Oh, he wrote that up there too. Okay, just got to read the whole board. March 5th, Shane Krauser is going to be presenting the Second Amendment event of the decade. I'm going to go out on a limb and say of the entire decade. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be jam-packed with information as well as demonstrations. Any volunteered for a live fire demonstration? No, just kidding. Only plastic guns, only demo guns, so there's no need to fear anything from that unless somebody throws one at you. Damage. So we have a couple of people that are going to present for just a couple of minutes. Some thoughts. Let's see. Lowell Taylor. Lowell. There he is. Lowell's going to speak for a few minutes on truth through Scripture.
All right. How many of you believe in Jesus Christ? Amen. How many of you wonder about Jesus Christ? All right. So here's the deal: is that in the Bible there's all these prophecies about leading up to the return of Christ. In fact, I was counting, and I counted over 40 kings, 40 people that are referenced about this king will do that, or that king will do this, or this country will do that, or that country will do this. And can anybody identify any of the kings? Anybody know any of the kings that are alive today, that are ruling, that are prophesied in the Bible? All right. So, I've been at this since 1998. And I have identified some people. And I've taken the prophecies and I broke them down into what I call prophetic point. Each prophecy will have a beginning point. Each prophecy will typically have an end point. And then angels or the prophets could have mentioned points in between. And just from the book of Daniel, the book of Revelation, I came up with 210 leading up to the return of Christ in power and glory. So if you were to take a guess between, now 193 to 210 is all about when he returns. So we have to be somewhere between 0 and 192. Any idea which number we would be on?
192.
192. It's a good guess. The other thing that I found is something that is right there in the scriptures, and that is that in the book of Revelation and in the book of Daniel, angels talk to those two prophets, John and Daniel, about a succession of 8 kings leading up to the return of Christ in power and glory. It has been misinterpreted, it's been whatever, but that is the actual fact. So, if you were to take a guess, now the 8th king is the power, seat, and authority of Satan when Christ comes back. So, which king are we on right now? The 1st, the 2nd, 3rd, the 8th? I have a poster. There's going to be over there on the table. I got business cards I'll pass out. Go to the website, check it out. You are the beginning point now. And my goal is that by the Christians, through the Christians, we are going to reach over 1 billion people by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lola. We really appreciate that. Proverbial act together here. I make no claims on that. Any tech people can help me out? All right. Next is Luann Sedgwick here. Oh, wow, that was fast. All right. She is going to speak. She's going to speak with us on voter ID, a controversial topic for some people, pretty clear for probably everybody in this room, right? Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much for having me this evening. My name is Luann Sedgwick, and I'm with the Arizona Free Enterprise Club, and I'm here this evening to talk to you about the voter ID ballot initiative, Citizens Ballot Initiative. And what that is it will require everyone in Arizona to show ID, no matter when they vote, where they vote, or how they vote. So why would we be doing a citizens ballot initiative for something that is common sense and that should be done through the legislature? Well, unfortunately, last year during the legislative session, Bill SB 1713 was voted down on the House floor by 2 Republicans. So,
Say their name.
Joel John and Michelle Udall.
Here you go, folks.
Anyways, so the fortunate thing is that when our legislature fails to do the will of the people have the opportunity to bring it forth in a citizens ballot initiative. So that's exactly what we have done, because we don't trust the fact that they're going to be able to get it done through the legislature. We're trying again this year. We are trying to do a referral to the election ballot, but we're not sure if that's going to pass. We're running up into some opposition again. So in order for us to get this on the ballot for next year, for this year's 2022 election, we need to get 300,000 signatures.
Where's the paper?
So I want to tell you a little bit more about it. In addition to the showing ID when you send in your mail-in ballot, which during the last election cycle, in Maricopa County, 92% of the people sent their ballot in via a mail-in ballot. It was 80% statewide. And that's where a lot of the, they call it ballot harvesting, ballot trafficking, a lot of the mistakes are being made. Currently, when you send it in, they just subjectively look at your signature, and that's how they decide. So you send in your ballot, and they scan it, and it pulls it up on the screen, and they'll look and they'll say, okay, well, that kind of looks like Luann's signature, but I'm not sure, so we're going to put that over to the side in adjudication. And we'll have to call her and wait and see what we find out. So, or if we have this on the ballot, after we vote this in, they'll have my date of birth inside, and then you can either put your last four of your social, your driver's license number, or a non-operating license, I guess, or form of ID, that they can obtain for free, and that would be a way for them to confirm that that is the correct person. So they look and they say, yes, that's her date of birth, that's her driver's license number, and be able to pass that on. Am I running out of time? Okay. So I have gone on and not paid attention and didn't get to cover the part that Jeffrey wanted me to talk about the most, which was why we need 300,000 signatures. But okay, so my bad. We have a petition here to sign, and we would love for you to not only sign, but to take petitions as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Luann. Very important subject, and really got to get that petition signed. Let me switch back to this gentleman. Love this gentleman. You're going to love hearing him. If you haven't spoken with Mark Del Maestro before, you're going to want to. You got to get to know him. He's an incredibly passionate patriot, former Marine, and he is. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. Border trip update. Mark Del Maestro, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Navy, I'm not Marine.
What?
So it's okay.
So I'm going to need
The Marines will forgive you.
I need an escort out of the building, aren't I?
The Navy had to bring the Marines to the war, otherwise we wouldn't know how to get there. That's my little dig. On Friday, I drove down to the border in Seabee, which is just south of Tucson. The town of Seabee is 9 people live there. That's how big the town is. And it's a border crossing, and at the crossing is a huge office and barracks for the Border Patrol. And they're all there guarding the border. And President Trump built an amazing wall, 30 feet high, did a great job. And we only covered about 10 to 15 miles west of that border crossing. There were 5 holes in the wall. There are 5. And only one has a camera on it. And we met 4 women, all of them mothers, who sleep in their car by the border and watch for people crossing the border and try and get to the children that are being sex trafficked across the border. Because more children are being brought across the border at these points because the Border Patrol is very thin and they're mainly watching where the caravans are going. And if you want to sex traffic a child, you don't want them to know they're in the country. So these women take pictures of them, they hand them a Bible, they ask them what language do they speak, and if they have a Bible in that language, they hand it to them, and they implore them to please tell the police and the Border Patrol the truth. Are you being molested? Are these men and women that are taking you, are they really your parents or your relatives? Tell them the truth, because they're telling you to lie, and you need to tell them the truth in order to save yourself. These women are not allowed to take the children. They can only leave them with the Border Patrol. And they sleep in their car all night long. In fact, they stay up most of the night because the Border Patrol is not allowed to tell them when people are crossing on those sections. So they wait and see when the Border Patrol starts to race toward one of the holes, and they race their cars there too. The Border Patrol lets the mothers talk to these kids, and that's why they're there. And it's, to me, a horrendous situation that we should be allowing this. If President Trump could have finished this wall, there wouldn't be that many holes, and they could watch it better, and they wouldn't use Arizona as the crossing point. The coyotes dropped. I walked into Mexico, because that's how easy it was to go through. I walked into Mexico, and I walked about 20, 30 yards in, and they have a bank part where they would hide out, and you can see all the empty water bottles and all the debris that they leave in Mexico. And people tell me I shouldn't say this, but I took a pee in Mexico. I peed on Mexico. Best pee I ever did. Felt so good. And I did it again. I don't care, I shouldn't say it, but I said it. And if they come and arrest me for it, terrific. So we covered the other places, and then I tried to meet the other women, because there's a rancher down there that set up a way station for them about 8 miles away, where they could go and take a shower and get some food and not sleep in their car. They could sleep in a cot and take a break. And I asked them how many women are doing this, and they said, well, it varies, because one lady I spoke to had 5 kids, and another had 3. So how often can you come down to the border and spend time doing this? But they were there because they believed God sent them, that they had to get to these children as best they could. And I just want to let you know what's going on, because this has to stop. We have to finish that wall, and Ducey could have finished it. He could have finished that wall and stopped us. So thank you very much for the time. Appreciate you guys.
Amazing veteran Marshall Lecter, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need an escort out of the building after that phone call. So, now we get to have a little bit of fun. So we want to see who is helping spread the message. So, everybody that brought a guest here tonight, raise your hand. Yeah, new people, bringing new people. Because we have a gift card. Which am I giving away from left to right? Doesn't matter? Ooh, you get your choice of gift cards. That's some nice stuff up here. So, everybody who brought a guest, raise your hand. Everybody who brought two. Ooh, rock, paper, scissors. What's that?
I think I have people here that I invited. Well, I mean, I sent it out to like 40 people. Right? Yeah, right
Okay.
there.
All right.
Yeah, right?
Two, okay. And you
Right
have?
there. Yeah, right?
So you both have two? How do we decide, Jeff? And we have 3 twos. Oh my goodness.
I think I have more than 3.
Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Can we do this real quick?
I think I have 5.
What?
I have 5.
Anybody that came because they're cold invited them stand up. Anybody that came because they're cold. Okay, we got.
All right, we have a winner.
Okay, wait.
Oh! Come on now, pick your gift card. While she is choosing, yeah. Now while she is choosing one gift card, only one. Feel free. I want to. We're going to recognize. We've got some candidates in the building. Gubernatorial candidate Brian Mache stopped by his table. He's got some information he's going to share with you. If you haven't signed this petition, you still petitioning?
Real quick, John.
Okay.
John,
Yes.
real quick, good.
Okay, so real quick, guys, I'm about 65% of the way to being on the ballot, which as a completely grassroots candidate that has no financial backing or any support of anyone, and the GOP is actually working against me because I'm a strict constitutionalist, it's a big deal to be that close to being on the ballot. Because when I'm on the ballot, they can't keep me out of debates. So if you haven't met me before, you haven't talked, come over at the end of the day today, give me 2 minutes of your time, and I guarantee I will change your mind on whoever your current governor candidate is. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Also back here, your name, sir?
My name is Chad Thompson. I'm running for Gilbert School Board.
Woohoo!
Excellent. Stop by. Looks like there's some petitions that need to get filled out. So if you
Petition, and I just started, so I'm about 1% on the ballot.
come on, folks, we can get up to 2% tonight. I know we can. I know we can. Thank you, Chad. Now, I've got to return these cards. Now, a little more fun. We're going to do some trivia, some constitutional and founder-based trivia. Thank you. We're going to do a high-low card draw for that gift card. Looks like Nicole won out. All her folks stood up. That's awesome. All right. Bear with me while I pull up the list of trivia questions. And no looking them up. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
That wasn't a poke at anybody, was it? So we had Christy Ray one time, Aaron Gould, Kelly Casto, and Aaron Gould again. Aaron, is Aaron here? I thought I saw him.
He's exempt.
I'm exempt. Oh, he's exempt tonight because he's won too many times. Okay, so we're going to have 7 questions, lucky number 7. So, quick raise of hands. I'll try to pick who the first person is. How many states ultimately ratified the U.S. Constitution?
13.
Bingo. So keep track of your points. Everybody keep track of your points. And there's not a whole lot of points, so it should be pretty easy to keep track of. The number of signers of the U.S. Constitution.
Please let me pose before you take a picture.
Okay. Who said 39? We have a winner. Yes. Okay, so we're tied. We got a 2-way tie for 1 point. Which article of the U.S. Constitution addresses the executive branch?
3.
Nicole had her hand up. 2. Those 3-way tie. We might need those cards again for the high-low draw. We're coming down to it. This should be pretty easy. What year was the U.S. Constitution ratified?
1789. 1789.
We're talking fully ratified, correct, Shane? Shane? We're talking fully ratified, right? That is not the answer that I have.
1792.
All right. You can agree with me or be wrong. Come up with a different trivia question there, because that was wrong. Okay, you said, who's the first one to say 1788?
That was March 16th.
All right, 2 points, all right. Which article of the U.S. Constitution addresses the U.S. legislature?
Right here. One.
56? 56?
You don't count. You don't count.
Robbie, you left your pocket Constitution at home tonight, didn't you? Okay. All right, so we've got a two-way tie for 2 points. This is going to come down to these last 2 questions. How many amendments are currently part of the U.S. Constitution? 27. Very good. Did you have a point previously? Okay, so you have a chance to make a 3-way tie here.
How many of them are constitutional?
That's a topic for another day, Robbie. But it is a good question. Which article of the U.S. Constitution addresses the judicial branch? I saw Nicole's hand first.
3.
But I heard over here first.
But it's hands, man. It's hands.
Hands. Yes, Nicole, you win. Third.
I'm gonna give it.
LEJ, Legislative, Executive, Judicial. 1, 2, 3. Shane Krauser taught me that. Thank you, Shane. Nicole, come get your gift card.
Oh, you give it to someone.
I
Give it
know.
to someone else. Lay it forward,
Oh, wow.
she says.
All right.
I already have one. Give it to the second place.
Second place, come on
I
up.
already have one.
Come get your gift card.
There you go.
Yeah. And what is your name? Roxy, what's your last name? Roxy, who just won a $25 gift card. She's going to go get some nice new clothes. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. And for those of you that actually knew these answers, I salute you, because without them in front of me, I forget things. So we're going to move on. This is now come fireworks. This is going to be it. Shane Krauser, easily one of the leading constitutional educators in the United States. He's written a couple of books. If you haven't read his books, we've got a couple of books up here for sale. One on principles of freedom, one of basically a line-by-line analysis of the Constitution. You've got to get a hold of these books. He testified in front of Congress. He was an attorney for 14 years, 12 of which as a county prosecutor, putting bad guys away. Man, that must have been so much fun. You can see some of the stuff on YouTube, the Mike Tyson second thing. That was a laugh. What else? Radio show host. I got to listen to that. That was my introduction to it. What else? Teacher, educator. He tells the story of going into the belly of the beast, Columbia University. I'm hoping we can get him to tell that story sometime, because that is an absolutely awesome story. So without any further ado, Shane Krauser, ladies and gentlemen.
How's everybody doing tonight? We are excited to have you. I know we've got several new folks, and I want to extend a special welcome to you. We feel like we're doing something really special here, and we're excited to have you a part of the family. And let me just kind of take a step back. So especially those that are new, you can really see a vision of where we're going and what our objective is. This is all about education. So if you're looking for politicians to come in and stump and that being the main platform, that's not where this happens. Do we have individuals running for office coming in here? Yeah, we've got several here tonight. And we'll have several in the coming weeks that will get up and tell you a little bit about what they're doing. But we believe this is home base, where individuals come and learn about the principles of the Constitution, the principles of freedom, and then as they learn about those things, they can go out and really do what they feel called to do within the freedom movement and be very effective in doing that. So everybody's got different ambitions. Everybody feels like they've been called to do something, whatever that might be, within the freedom movement. Some are still looking, but here's the deal. I believe as you learn about the principles of freedom week in and week out with us, as you identify what that calling is, you're going to be more successful and able to go out and carry that out week to week. It might be running for office, it might be a precinct committeeman, it might be organizing rallies, it might be out there educating, whatever that might be. We're just excited that we get to create a platform that you're a part of. And so with that said, I want to talk just a brief moment about the Second Amendment event we're having. If you haven't written it down or gone on, I would encourage you to do it. 2a.eventbrite.com. 2a.eventbrite.com. This is about 2008, I put this course together called Impact. And it's all simulations. So there's no live fire, there's no live ammunition. It's going to happen right here. It's all simulated weapons that I'm going to be bringing in. And this was actually a course, I think kind of the pinnacle of this event was I actually did this in Glenn Beck Studios back when I was working for Glenn Beck. And people paid $1,500 a pop to be a part of this. Now, you're going to get a mini version of it. It's a 4-hour type deal. And it's not going to be a lot of gun safety. Like you're going to come in and for 4 hours we're going to talk about gun safety. There will be some of that, but really the big objective is teaching you what the law is. What does Arizona say you can and can't do when it comes to a firearm? And then we're going to talk about how do you engage in the process. I'm going to have a number of scenarios set up. Anything from convenience store to a restaurant to an alleyway in a house. And we're going to actually have live actors involved in these. And some of you are going to volunteer. And we're going to make you go outside, and you're going to come inside. We're going to say, hey, you're coming into your home. All right, you're walking down an alleyway, and you're going to have a simulated weapon with you, and we're going to watch how you engage. Right? So that normally wouldn't be the case if you're walking down an alleyway that you have a couple hundred people watching you. Right? But that's what's going to happen here, and we're going to watch you engage, and then we're going to talk about, number one, what does the law say under these circumstances that you are permitted to do? And then, just because the law says you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that was the best decision. So we're going to talk about tactics. And then we're going to talk about if you get involved in a firefight, if you get involved in a lethal confrontation, understand that even if you're actually innocent, there may be some things that come down. There's going to be a police investigation. You could be charged with a crime. Who remembers Kyle Rittenhouse? Yeah. Kyle Rittenhouse is a perfect example of someone who was actually innocent. Right? I was a prosecutor for 12 years. I spent half of my career in the homicide unit. That case wouldn't have lasted on my desk for longer than a week. That was a case of actual innocence. But yet he luckily had donations, but millions of dollars in his defense when he was actually innocent. So the whole idea behind this is to, number one, make you educated, make you well informed, that you're able to make necessary decisions pertinent to carrying a firearm and ultimately using a firearm. And just through that process, making you more comfortable. And some of you may walk away from this event saying, I don't want to carry a gun. And I'm not discouraging you or encouraging. I'm just saying if you're going to carry a weapon, know what the law is. And know what the consequences might be. And we're going to talk in a lot of detail. I'm going to talk about some of the things that might happen during an investigation. Should you talk to law enforcement? What should you say if you do choose to talk to law enforcement? If there's a trial that goes down, what will that trial look like? What are prosecutors looking for? What will juries be instructed? And I'm going to bring several examples of otherwise good, upstanding people that I prosecuted that I sent to prison for a long time. You know, one of the key examples I'll tell you the story on March 5th, was an individual who was a high-level engineer at Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant. He was making well over $250,000 a year. He was out on a Saturday night on the 10 and Jackrabbit Road, way out west, and did something really stupid with his gun, and ended up going to prison for a long time. It totally changed his life in every way imaginable. And I'm going to talk to you about not only what he did, but I'm going to talk to you about some things that happened in the courtroom that are very educational in terms of, now, what do I need to think about? If I'm going to get involved in a firefight, what do I need to think about? So, guys, it's going to be an unbelievable event. You're going to have a great time. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. And I'm going to get you sweating. And I'm going to get your heart rate up. And you're going to feel the adrenaline effect, because that's a big part of understanding self-defense is the adrenaline effect. We're going to talk about all of those things, about what your body will do in a firefight that's designed to help you win. It's designed to put you in a position to win. And we're going to talk about those things as well. So, you guys pretty fired up for that event? Woo! I just want to make sure. And it is free, just so we're clear. Now, we will be accepting donations. We'll be accepting donations. but we're bringing in food.
No.
And I heard Nicole, that's the only reason why Nicole is coming is because we got food. You better eat those darn donuts by the time the night's over with. I'm telling you. But listen, that's going to happen. We're excited. Go on and register at 2a.eventbrite.com. Make that happen. Tell your friends about it. Spread the word. It's going to be a packed house on that day. So let's talk before we hear from Jeff Utsch. Are you guys, first of all, excited to hear from Jeff?
Yeah.
You guys are going to be blown away. He's a great friend of mine. He's a great constitutional advocate. He brings a ton of experience to the table. He is an active trainer of Navy SEALs. He swam in the Olympic trials back in the day. He swims ultramarathons, 30 miles plus, and at one point was recognized as one of the top 10 fittest human beings, I believe in the world, but at least in the United States. Jeff, you can correct me. Was it the world or the United States?
Well, we'll talk about it.
Okay. He was fit, is what I'm saying. So anyways, I'm excited for you to hear from him. But let me just give you a nugget, just a little bit of a nugget. Next week, I'm going to take the entire time. But before Jeff comes up, I want to just give you a little bit of a nugget that revolves around freedom that you can take away, that you can put in your arsenal as you become a more effective advocate. There's an argument out there that says that the Constitution is living and breathing.
Nope.
Who said that?
Most of us.
Brian, can you be quiet? Brian, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. You can chime in anytime you want. So the argument is that it is living and breathing, that is evolving, that the circumstances that existed at the time of our founding in the 1700s, 1770s, and 1780s are very much different than the circumstances we're dealing with today. One of the arguments, for example, is with guns. The type of weapons that we have available to us today, not just guns and firearms, but weapons in general are different as you compare it to 791 when the Bill of Rights was ultimately ratified, namely the Second Amendment being a part of that. So because we're dealing with different circumstances in that regard, the founders certainly couldn't have considered that the average individual could have access to a tank sitting in their backyard, or an F-16 having ownership of the ability. So they didn't consider those things. And so the document has to be evolving, and we have to consider our time. So what are your thoughts about this idea that the document is a living, breathing document? Is that true?
No.
Why not? I see you're doing this. What's your name?
Mark.
Mark, is this your first time?
No, second time.
Second time. Great to have you back. Well, what do you say?
The Puckle machine gun was invented 70 years before the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
Okay. So, but what about the bigger argument?
Machine guns already were in use
Okay.
and well established, and so the whole idea that the Constitution has to adapt to the changing of guns and armaments is ridiculous.
Why?
Because it's based on principles.
What's the principle?
Overall, or talking about the Second Amendment?
Yeah, essentially, you're talking about the Second Amendment. Let's talk about that, and then we'll take it. We'll broaden it a bit.
Their forefathers escaped tyrants and despots all over the world to come here to establish freedom. They understood that the well-armed populace was to ensure the freedoms established here in the U.S. And it's not for hunting, it's not for sportsmanship, it's for, in the event of a tyrannical government coming into power, people have the means to defend themselves.
Excellent. Yeah, that was great. Well said. So for those of you that didn't hear it, he says it's not so much the instrument as it is the principle. What is the principle, for example, behind the Second Amendment? The concern that not only do individuals have the inherent right to defend themselves, but could at some point we experience a tyrannical government rising up and oppressing the people? The people's last chance is to be able to defend against that sort of idea. But what about the broader picture that things like communication? Communication is much, much different. And because of that, there's security measures that have to be taken. You look at computers. Computers didn't exist back at the time of the founding. There's all kinds of technological advances that didn't exist during that time that exist today. So why not allow the Constitution to evolve? To really, the court to sit down and say, well, hey, that didn't exist at that time. It exists today, so this is what we're going to do about it. This is how we're going to interpret the Constitution. Yes?
So fundamentally, the freedoms that the Constitution gave us, it doesn't change because you have a computer or because you have a phone, right? And when government starts encroaching on those freedoms of speech, per se, like using speech as an example, then they can start encroaching more and more to say, well, you know, we started to stop this type of freedom, so therefore we have to do this. It releases people from the liability of their own actions, and that's what people need to be accountable for.
Excellent, well said. Everything was well said. I just want to fix something that you said on the front end that I think is really important. Remember that the Constitution didn't give us freedom. Are we clear on that?
Yep.
Right, this is really important because so often we're getting stuck in this debate out there, whether it's social media or you listen to news in general, and the question often comes our way is, where in the Constitution do you have that right? The Constitution doesn't give me anything, right? Those rights are inherent in us, and we know that through the foundation of the Constitution, the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We're all created equal. We're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Not endowed by a piece of paper, endowed by our Creator with those certain unalienable rights. So the Constitution is designed to restrain government and make sure they keep their hands off of those fundamental liberties that are inherently ours. And Nicole, I know you know that because I've heard you debate, and I've heard you argue, and I know you do that. But I wanted to just make that clear because I think it's a very, very important point. Yeah, I saw a couple of hands over here. Yes?
Well, first issue I would like to address is the fact that human nature has not changed in the 240-some years.
Yes.
And the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are there, especially the Constitution is there to frame our relationship to ourselves, so that it addresses basic fundamental elements of human nature, and that doesn't change over time.
Yes, yes, very well said. So I'm just going to rehash what he just said. Human nature has not changed. So when we look at the principles of liberty and we look at the Constitution isn't outlining and solidifying certain liberties per se. It's that Constitution is designed to restrain men acting within the confines of government. What was it that James Madison said in the Federalist Paper? He said if men were angels, there would be no need for government. Now you ladies are lucky. Like apparently Madison liked women. He didn't mention anything about women. If men were angels, there would be no need for government. What's he speaking to? He's speaking to human nature and what human beings will ultimately do with power. What is it that we've seen historically done when men are given power or they steal power? What happens?
Tyranny. Tyranny.
They'll abuse it. Tyranny. What did you say, Rob?
Lord Acton said that power will
power tends to grow.
Power will
I'm waiting on you, Ralph, because you got this.
It's a senior moment.
But it's power corrupts.
Yes.
Yep. And corrupts, absolutely. That's exactly right. Right. So now listen to what Thomas Jefferson said. He said, say no more of confidence in man, but bind him down with the chains of the Constitution. Say no more of confidence in man, but bind him down with the chains of the Constitution. So the question becomes for us as a society, do we want to bind them down with chains, or are we interested in rubber bands? Because rubber bands allows it to be flexible. And then we've got to step back and ask ourselves, what is the Constitution? Is the Constitution a mission statement, or is it something that outlines rules and laws? And I want you to think about this. There's no business that would get up and run and say, we're going to run our business based on a mission statement. They run it by way of rules and bylaws. So how in the world could this be anything different? How in the world could we ever expect that the Founding Fathers would come together and they would pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to a document that could do anything that it wanted to, depending on the people who are currently in power? Right? So let me read this to you just real quick, and I know there's a few comments coming our way. This is Justice Clarence Thomas, actually my favorite justice on the Supreme Court, and he says this. He says, I believe that no. Hold on, I'm going to, give me a sec. Where did he go? He said, on every question of construction, now this is actually, this is Thomas Jefferson, and then I'm going to outline Clarence Thomas. On every question of construction, let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, and instead of trying what meaning may be squeezed out of the text or invented against it, conform to the probable one in which it was passed. Okay? And then here, this spot, here it is. This is Justice Clarence Thomas. Let me put it this way. There are only really two ways to interpret the Constitution. Try to discern as best we can what the framers intended or make it up. No matter how ingenious, imaginative, or artfully put, unless interpretive methodologies are tied to the original intent of the founders, they have no more basis in the Constitution than the latest football scores. Now think about this. So when you hear people making this argument that it's an evolving document, I think just drawing a parallel, could any of you imagine signing an insurance agreement, and 10 years into the insurance agreement, you get a call and say, hey, I'm sorry to tell you, but the insurance agreement that you signed has actually evolved. You're not as insured as you thought you were. Right? You have to have a constant, if you're going to have freedom, and freedom is going to prosper, and individuals are going to be held in check. If Thomas Jefferson really meant what he said, which is bind them down with the chains of Constitution, this cannot be a document that simply evolves based on what a couple people might say. Now, can the Constitution, can we progress in some ways with the Constitution? Can we bring in new ideas to the Constitution?
The Air Force.
How can we do this? Amendments. Where's that process found in the Constitution? Article 5. And I think this is such a powerful argument for the Constitution not being a living, breathing document. If it was a living, breathing document, there would be no need for an Article 5. There would be no need for the founders to put in a provision. Hey, if there comes a time where you want some change, or something's not working out, or you want to amend this document, here is the process that you have to go through. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful arguments to be made in support of this idea, that it's supposed to be a static document. And if we want it to evolve, we can amend it. Any other thoughts on this before I sit down here? Yes, Ron?
That's how contracts work. You sign say a construction contract, or to build a building, or to build a park, or whatever. You have a contract, and all interpretations of the contract are designed to go back to what did they have in mind when they all said, I'm signing on the line.
Yeah.
And if you need to have an amendment, both parties have an amendment, and they sign an amendment.
Yeah.
And you change it. But you change it according to the rules. You don't just go change it.
Yeah, and we're seeing that individuals, I'll just give you one real example. Sheila Jackson Lee. Yeah, let me just give you an example. So where in the Constitution does the legislative branch get their authority? Article 1, right? Article 1 is legislative, Article 2 is executive, Article 3 is judicial. L-E-J, just remember that. You now know more than 95% of the population. Okay? Article 1 is legislative. And the legislative, what it says in Article 1, Section 1 is all legislative powers herein granted are vested. They're vested in the legislative branch. They're vested in Congress. Vested is a very important word. If you vest something, the person that is vested in can't give it away. If I vest something in you, you don't have the discretion to give it away. Yet today, we have thousands of bureaucracies. Thousands of bureaucracies. Did you know? Here's that little interesting fact that'll blow your colleagues away at the water cooler tomorrow. Did you know that if you read 700 pages of the U.S. Code every day, how long do you think it'd take you to get through the U.S. Code? That's 700 pages a day.
That's 35,000.
25,000 years. This is true. 700 pages. Now, you're like, are you? Yes, you can fact check me. Right?
50 titles. If there was 100 titles, it'd take you longer.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I want to go to Sheila Jackson Lee as an example. And I'm going to take you back to Obama for just a quick moment. Do you remember when Obama gave his State of the Union address and he said, we are working to get things done. But we need cooperation from the Republicans. And we're willing to work with them. But if they're not willing to work with us, I got a pen and a phone. Pen and a phone. And what happened when he said that in that State of the Union address? No, we're getting there. But what happened when he said that? You had a standing ovation from at least 100 legislators that stood up and applauded him. What were they basically saying?
Do what you want.
Do what you want. Yeah, it's vested in us, but go ahead and steal our power. Do whatever you got to do. Why? Why were they doing that? Because they only care about two things, elections and re-elections. Obama, do what you got to do. A few days later, Sheila Jackson Lee, a member of which branch of government? The legislative branch of government, who has the power to make laws, says we've now created a caucus. And we are going to be funneling through this caucus dozens of pieces of legislation, but they're going to be nothing more than executive orders, and we're going to send these executive orders up to President Obama to sign. Now, there's a date, there's a time in our history where someone may have done that. It would not have been too comfortable for them. You can imagine, okay? But yet, this was on national TV. What was she saying? We will bypass the legislative process in order to get done what we want done.
We want tyranny.
Yeah, this is tyranny.
We want a king.
This is why you must have a static document. This is why you must have a document that does not evolve unless you've gone through the Article 5 process. Say no more of confidence in man, but bind him down with the chains of the Constitution. Bind him down with the principles. And what does our Constitution do? Does it say, legislature, do whatever you want? No, in Article 1, Section 8, it says, legislature, this is all you can do. Article 2, hey, President, here's 6 things you're permitted to do. That's it. Judicial branch, here's the only type of cases you're permitted to hear, giving some authority over to Congress to deal with some of that. But it's very limited. When we say our Constitution is limited, that's what we're talking about. They don't get to do whatever they want. It's not one of negative powers. It's one of positive powers. These are the only things you're permitted to do. If it doesn't say it, you can't do it. So everybody's familiar with the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment is a great reminder. Those powers that we haven't given the federal government remain with the states. With the states. Right? So you had a comment.
Yeah, I think we might want to tighten those chains a little bit.
Yes. Yes. So, some of you have heard me say this before, the Constitution is a complex maze of booby traps designed to stop tyranny in its tracks. And the only way that we can start to win back, at least in the political realm, is people becoming educated enough to know how to engage the trap. Guys, it's on us. We can't wait. If we're waiting on the next, there is no political savior that's going to come in and save the day.
We are our own heroes.
That's right. If you're waiting on the next president to save the day, the next congressman to save the day, the next governor, next mayor to save the day, those things are important. But until the people are educated, we'll never see tyranny die off. Right? The people have to be educated. So, guys, let's do this. Let's make this happen together. I believe our best days are yet to come, and we're going to continue to build this group and create a peaceful revolution around freedom and have confidence. Let's lead together and let's chase liberty together. Thank you guys so much.
Folks, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. Don't go away. This is Matt Bell Talk Show. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.